Okay, it's April 14th. It's Tuesday, and I'm going to go over the notes for solve with square roots. And we'll start off with a little bit of review, and then we'll get into how to solve these equations by using square roots. We're going to learn how to solve quadratic equations three different ways. The first being with square roots, and then we're going to solve them by factoring, and then we're going to solve them with the quadratic formula. So let's get started. You can print this off, or you can look at this under your email. There's a page or there's a link to solve with square root notes, or you can just write this down on a piece of paper, or you can just watch. So, it's just like being in class. I'm going to go through the notes, and then we will, I'll give you some practice problems, and then you can answer those practice problems. And then I'll provide a video of me going over each of the practice worksheets. So this is on your email that you should have gotten. Solve with square root notes. So let's go through this. So the first part says evaluate each radical as a decimal, round to two decimal places. Now, when we did this earlier in the year, we did simplest radical form. I'm just going to do decimals. This will make it easier for you over break. If you go over this again next year, which you probably will with Mrs. Bartlett or Mrs. Castile, they'll do all simplest radical form. So let's just start with number one. The square root of 9, hopefully all of us know, is 3. Number 2, the square root of 18. When we've done this year, we have said, okay, that's the square root of 9 times 2, and we rewrote that as 3 root 2. We're going to go with decimals now, so instead of 3 root 2, you're just going to take your calculator, and you should be able to use any calculator. You don't need your graphing calculator. So one on your phone will be fine, or one that's probably just laying in a drawer somewhere in your house will be fine. So if you just go find the square root button and type in the square root of 18, we're going to round to two places, so 4.24 is what we're going to do with that one. Same thing with square root of 20. We could simplify it to be 2 root 5, but for now we're just going to type in our calculator the square root of 20, and we're going to get 4.47. So that's just some brush up, some review, and we're going to use that when we solve these equations. All right, so when we solve with square roots, number 4 here is a quadratic equation, and if you got the printed off notes from school, I think I changed this a little bit, so there's probably one less problem, one maybe say solve by factoring. So there's a few changes if you picked up the packet from school, because I've made some changes since then. So this one, number 4, solve this equation by taking square root. So we're going to do it like we always have. We're going to try to isolate the x. So in this case, we're going to add 9 to both sides. So I add 9, that's going to give me x squared equals 9. So the operation that undoes squaring is taking the square root. So once we get to here, we're going to take the square root of both sides. So the square root of x squared is x, the square root of 9 is 3. Here's going to be the biggest mistake that will be made. Remember, when we talk about quadratics, we talk about x-intercepts, we've talked about zeros. Those are also the same thing as the solutions. And most quadratics cross the x-axis twice, so they have 2 x-intercepts. So they're going to have 2 solutions as well. So what we're going to do on this is we're going to have 2 answers, and those answers are going to be positive and negative 3. So we're going to put a plus or minus out front. So there's 2 answers, x equals positive 3 and x equals negative 3. If you would rather, you could write it out as 2 completely separate answers like that, or you could leave it as x equals plus or minus 3. That just saves you a little bit of time. 2 answers, and the reason being is when you square a positive, you get a positive. When you square negative, you also get a positive. Okay, so let's go down to the bottom. This says answers should be in simplest radical form. We're going to change that. We're just going to do answers as decimals. I thought I changed that. I will change that before I send that out to you. All right, so instead of simplest radical form, we're going to do decimals here. All right, so I will change that on the links. Okay, so number 5. We're going to start off, we want to take the square root of both sides. So when we do that, we're going to get x equals the square root of 16 is 4, but we need to put that plus or minus. So the answer is plus or minus 4. And the reason being, 4 squared is 16, negative 4 if you square it is also 16. So 2 answers, 4 and negative 4. Number 6, square root of both sides. To get rid of the square, we get x equals the square root of 49 is 7. Don't forget the plus or minus. So 2 answers, positive 7 and negative 7. Okay. Number 7, now, these are not perfect squares, so when we do this one, we're going to take the square root of both sides, and we're going to get x equals. Now I'm going to go to my calculator, and I'm going to type in the square root of 45, which is going to be 6.71. So my answer is going to be plus or minus 6.71. 2 answers, positive 6.71 and negative 6.71. Okay, number 8, 9, and 10. These are going to take 2 steps, just like we did 2-step equations in Algebra 1 or in Math 1. So we want to get the x squared by itself. So on number 8, we're going to add 5 to both sides. That's going to get us x squared equals 25. All right, now next step is going to be to take the square root of both sides. Sorry about this, isn't very neat. And you get x equals positive and negative 5. So 2 answers. You can always plug those in and check. 5 squared minus 5 would give you 20. Negative 5 squared minus 5 would also give you 20. 9, same idea. We're going to add 36 to both sides. That'll give us x squared equals 36. Take the square root of both sides now. And we're going to get x equals plus or minus 6. Number 10 is going to take us 3 steps now. So we're taking baby steps to make these a little bit more difficult as we go. All right, so if we look at number 10, we're going to subtract 7 from both sides. That's going to give me 5x squared equals 20. Then we're going to divide both sides by 5, just like we would on a 2-step linear equation. That's going to get us x squared equals 4. And then to finish it off, we're going to take the square root of both sides, and the square root of 4 is 2, and don't forget plus or minus 2, 2 different answers for that particular problem. Okay, all right, 11, 12, and 13 are going to be the most challenging in this group, so let's go through those. So if we look at number 11, now we have a parenthesis squared, so that minus 3 is locked inside of the parenthesis. There's nothing we can do about it until we get rid of the square. So we're going to take the square root of both sides right off the bat, and that's going to give me x minus 3 equals plus or minus 5. Okay, so once we get to here, now we have 2 answers, but we have this x minus 3 we've got to deal with. So we're going to have to add 3, but before you do that, I would break this up into 2 different equations because our answers are no longer going to be opposites like they were on 5 through 10. So on this one, I'm going to have one equation that says x minus 3 equals 5, and another equation that says x minus 3 equals negative 5. So I've just taken this plus or minus 5 and done one equation with the 5 and one equation with the negative 5. So then I add 3 here, and I get x equals 8. Add 3 here, and I get x equals negative 2. So 2 answers, one positive 8 and the other one negative 2. So 2 answers, just like all the other ones have, but these answers are no longer opposites of each other, and that's what's going to happen anytime you have that parenthesis. All right, so let's go to another one, number 12. X plus 2, the quantity squared, equals 50. So again, we need to get rid of the radical, get rid of the square first, so we have to unlock that parenthesis. So we're going to take the square root of both sides. That's going to give me x plus 2 equals plus or minus. Now 50 is not a perfect square. So on my calculator, I need to type in the square root of 50, and I get 7.07. 2 different answers now. So I'm going to break this up into 2 equations. X plus 2 equals 7.07. Sorry about that. And x plus 2 equals negative 7.07. Subtract 2 here. That's going to give me x equals 5.07. One answer. Over here, I'm going to subtract 2, and I'm going to get x equals negative 9.07. Now, both examples we've done, we've gotten one positive and one negative. That does not always happen. You may get 2 positives, you may get 2 negatives, you may get 1 of each. Okay? All right, and number 13, and the last one on this part is same idea. We're going to take the square root of both sides, and we're going to get x minus 7 equals, now 18 is not a perfect square. Square root of 18 is going to be 4.24, so I'm going to have plus or minus 4.24. So break that up into 2 equations. X minus 7 equals 4.24, and x minus 7 equals negative 4.24. Ran out of room there, sorry. So I'm going to add 7 here. So x is going to equal 11.24. Add 7 here, and if I take negative 4.24, and I add 7 to it, I get 2.76. So those are my 2 answers. Okay, so those are the notes for the first half of solving by square roots. There will be a second video as well. So you've obviously clicked on the link under number 2 on this on your email. this sheet was under number 1 on your email. Now, number 3 on your email is today's worksheet. So you can click on that. You can do them on a separate sheet of paper. You can print them out if you have a printer, and then there'll be a video following that where I go over the answers. All right, number 5 in the direction sheet, I'll go over another set of notes. Okay, and there'll be a video for that on number 6. And then number 7 is a second worksheet. Okay, so if you have any questions, I put my number at the bottom of the email. Okay, we're going to do a Google Chat sometime as well, or Google Classroom, and I'll get to you on that. So good luck with this. Let me know if you have any problems. Work through the practice if you want to. And remember, you're going to have a slideshow assessment at the end of this. So you could definitely get started on that, and the directions are also on the same email. So you can go to the bottom of this email and find the directions for the end of the unit assessment. All right, hopefully this helped out, and let me know if you need anything. Stay healthy. Goodbye.